So it's this domino effect. And, you know, as Baghdad burns, Calgary booms. And it booms because the oil in Alberta is embedded in the sand, is in the tar. And so it was economically unfeasible before 2003 for the big oil companies to invest in processing that oil. So they didn't count it as much of it as an oil reserve because it just didn't make economic sense. But now it does. So now we have this incredible oil boom going on, and it's intimately linked. And when I was in Calgary, I was speaking in a room the size of this. I said, what is the one thing that can threaten your economic boom? And they all yelled out, peace. I mean, people know, they know how intimately connected their economy is to disaster. You know, this book is not a book of prescriptions. Yeah, and you know, in terms of why it took me so long to get to Portland, it took me 4 years to write this book. And I did very little public speaking. After No Logo, I did a lot of public speaking for a couple of years, and then I just decided I'm not going to, stand on podiums until I've done the work to deserve to be there again. And I think sometimes it happens that people just stay on the circuit, and the reason why you're looked to for new information sort of fades away because you don't spend the time to do that research. So I take it really seriously about what I'm qualified to speak on, and the research that I did in the book that I produced is not a book of prescriptions of here is where we're going now. I do have ideas, but I don't actually think I'm any more qualified than any of you to answer it. I think that, and I think we all actually do know the solutions. And I actually think what we face much more than a lack of solutions is a lack of confidence and lack of faith in our solutions. So part of the reason why I believe that this book, although it's despairing, is actually empowering, is because when you see the way shocks and crises was used at all of these key junctures to impose this disastrous economic model, this system of dispossession and inequality. It challenges the central and most dangerous fairy tale of our time, which is that we got this ideology because we wanted it, because we demanded it, right? And that is a very disempowering message. And the flip side of that is there is no alternative, right? So what I'm showing in the book is that, first of all, people didn't want this. They voted for other things at very key moments, whether in South Africa in 1994, or Solidarity in Poland in 1989, or Chile in 1970 for Salvador Allende. And these shock tactics have been used to get those alternatives out of the way. And they are basically variations on democratic socialism and cooperative workplaces. And this attempt to reconcile the desire to have freedom in our choices and to pool our collective resources and live in dignity is, we've been trying to have this, to get it right for a really long time now. And this economic project has really been about eliminating those alternatives and claiming there are really only two choices: totalitarian communism and savage capitalism, and nothing in between. So I'm just trying to show all the roads not taken, and I think we can choose from them. And what we need to make the right choices is confidence. And what hurts our confidence is that we believe our ideas are tainted. We believe there's something wrong with our ideas. We believe that they've already been tried and failed. So when we understand the history better, we actually see that they were shocked out of the way before we even got a chance to try them. Now, in terms of so there are many things we can do, but I just think we already know them. I mean, you watch Sicko, look at Canada. You can have a public health care system, You can invest in public infrastructure. You can send back your tax rebates and have a public library system, in this state. Like it's not rocket science, and I also think we know what we need to do in the face of climate change, and so I'm trying to point at some of the reasons why we have a leadership that is totally casual in the face of catastrophe, and why we need to be much more urgent in proposing our alternatives. But you raised the issue of truth and accountability and what can be done right now. And I have to say that the countries that are more shock resistant have gone through a process of of truth commissions, of official truth-telling. I mean, the contestations of history, I know exactly what you mean. And it is really unique to this context that there's almost nothing that can be collectively agreed upon about what happened, whether it's about slavery, whether it is about the genocide against indigenous people, as you say, whether it's about labor history, whether it's about the New Deal. I mean, absolutely everything is contested. So people just decide to not remember, right? Because it's easier. And if you even think about the inability to have a memorial at Ground Zero in New York, it was over this battle over how to remember and how to define freedom and what would be in the memorial, right? So this is so contested, and that's actually why I think it would be a really great thing to impeach George Bush. I really do. Tell the truth to each other all we want, but it's the official truth-telling, right? It's getting it down on the record and there being consequences for the truth that this country so desperately needs. I think it's the beginning of the process, but it's a really good beginning. So, yeah.
The next question is about what the shock doctrine looks like at the local level, specifically with regard to school funding and politics here. Locally, there are moves towards privatization. Most notably, the school custodians were fired 4 years ago. They were rehired recently, but now face a 30% wage cut. Can you talk about how crisis capitalism is working at the local level?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think we see it on a micro level all the time, where the system, the policies, deregulation, cuts to government spending in the social services and healthcare and education, and privatization. These aren't isolated, right? You cut spending to healthcare and education, and you create the crisis that you then solve with privatization. So, I mean, these are mini shock doctrine cycles all the time. And that just reminds me of just one other, that I'll come back to the larger point about the fact that you're on the front lines of this struggle. But thank you so much for your comment.
The next question has to do with Naomi Klein's discussion of psychiatric shock treatment, euphemistically called electroconvulsive therapy, referring to a passage in the shock doctrine that states that the psychiatric use of shock treatment has now been refined so that it ensures the safety and comfort of the patient and has become a safe and effective treatment for psychosis. This member of the audience takes exception to this, stating that it is not universally accepted.
Yeah.
Okay, so
thank you.
Hopefully you talk more.
You know, I have to tell you, that was a contested paragraph in the book.
I feel better already.
Yeah. Thank you.
I also have a question.
Yeah.
The next question, from the same member of the audience, is about fiscal conservatives, including ideologues like Grover Norquist, who may be angry about the size of government and the deficit and the number of federal employees. Have you encountered any of these people, fiscal conservatives, who object to the policies of the Bush administration on these grounds? The next audience member said he was representing the millions of Americans who think that 9/11 was an inside job. He offered a number of examples that he presented as evidence for this view, including a copy of the 9/11 Commission report, which he presented to Naomi Klein. He then asked how Naomi Klein could refer to 9/11 as blowback if in fact it was an inside job carried out by the Bush administration.
I have the 9/11 Truth Commission, but thanks.
Look at it again.
Well, listen, I am not going to defend the 9/11 Truth Commission. It is an embarrassment of a report. And I do want to thank you for your contribution. And I absolutely have many questions. I also would put nothing past these guys.